you would have asked me 20 years ago if I would have ended up working full-time at a church someday, I would have said you were crazy. But here we are, 6:30 a.m. on a Sunday morning. About this time 20 years ago, my first horror film, the first of many, was being released in retail stores all over America. That's what I thought I would be doing, directing splatter movies.
In our culture, there is also a collective anxiety about what will cause the end of the world. Even today, in our popular culture,
I'm Bill Schotten, Media and Technical Ministries Director at Old North Church in Canfield. This is the story of how Ashley, Rozzi, and I went from horror to faith-based films together.
Too hot.
About the what and the how and the when. About
Every Sunday, this is where I'm at.
and in our
Live streaming.
culture in this time, there is no
This series is on Revelations. I can't wait to share this one with Ash. She loves this
collective
stuff.
anxiety about what will cause the end of the world.
Yes, so Bill arrived at Old North about 4 years ago. I actually had the distinct, we'll use pleasure, the distinct pleasure of knowing Bill actually before he came on staff here. But it has only enhanced my love of Bill and all things Bill. So we have done several projects together. He, of course, shoots promo videos for our women's ministry events and other things, and loves to give me a hard time about my long-windedness.
Theology is really important, actually. You know, sometimes many people will say, well, I don't need theology. So Bill is a tremendous gift to my particular work in that he helps put to film and promotion the classes and the materials that we'll be teaching. We are able to get mass media out to people to let them see my face.
So Bill comes from a storied past, and the reason I know about those things is because he's very open about his transformational story. So he was a raging drug addict and knew all kinds of things about how to get and obtain and use drugs, and knew that world. I've had some interesting conversations with him because my husband is in law enforcement, so I've gotten to see kind of both sides of that story. But he truly is a new person in Christ. We all are, of course, but Bill, again, in a particular way.
I like to apply my talents to ministry work. I mean, I was shooting a TV show for Casey Malone, and I was doing a lot of like little side gigs and stuff. But this is something about meaningful work.
When I found out that there was a faith-based film being made by Bill, was a little cynical in that I think thought that, oh, this is going to fall in line with what my thoughts were. Yeah, my opinion on faith-based films generally is pretty negative.
I came to see faith films as, frankly, for lack of a better term, cheesy and not well done. So the quality turned people off. Of course, as people in general became pickier about the advances in technology, faith-based films just seemed to not keep up. And so they almost became a punchline.
The portrayal of sin in faith-based films doesn't ring true to the way it is in real life. In order for a film to land or to be impactful to people, it has to be relatable to real life. Interesting thing is that most faith-based films tend to treat sin with kid gloves, and the Bible in no way treats sin with kid gloves. I mean, the Bible is very graphic on how it portrays sin.
I think I got into video production in the arts as a need to tell stories, as a want to tell stories. I think, if I boiled all the other skill sets away, the camera and the sound and that kind of stuff, I'm a writer at heart. My feature film, my debut film, was a film called Waxing Gibbous, and it's a coming-of-age story.
All right, you can go now. How's it going, Bernie? I don't
Yeah,
know.
you know, once Waxing Gibbous was complete, we started, trying to find an audience, promoting it, showing at different colleges, submitting to film festivals. And we go to this, like a rock off, like a battle of the bands. And it was being hosted by this guy Tom Sabella of Region Rock.
So I took this job emceeing for something called Region Rock. It was a local band thing in Struthers, and I think it was called The Cellar. I'm not even of legal age, right? I'm like 19. And they give me note cards. I'm supposed to introduce bands, and they're like, here, memorize these right before you go on. But I'm introducing also Jim's movie. He's passing out Waxing Gibbous. So that was my first, he didn't even notice me.
And she was interested in acting, and being in Northeast Ohio making indie films, there weren't a lot of people really doing that at the time.
And I went by the name Jersey. Oh, so embarrassing.
There was this noise happening, on the other side of Trumbull County. And here's this guy over in Hubbard, this Bill Schotten, and this guy's making a horror film. And I was like, oh, horror film, zombie film. And our mutual friend and mutual, muse, if you will, Michael Hanton, he was saying, oh, I got this other movie gig. And I remember kind of thinking at the time, like, it's happening. Like, this is gonna be the movement. And so Mike would come in and be like, yeah, I'm doing this zombie movie or whatever. I'm like, oh, that's cool, man. Like, what's it all about? He's like, well, this guy's like shooting on 8mm film. And I was like, what? Why would he do that?
Nice, Bill. Nice, keep that up. Roll.
I got the idea to make a feature film in, I think it was like 2000, and did the crazy thing, set out and made this weird little Super 8 film that took off and ended up in retail stores.
Because I'd shot on 8mm film, and it's very hard. You shoot on video, you're looking in the monitor, and you're like, oh, that looks great. Let's see how it actually, rewind it. We're gonna play it back, and you're all sitting around this monitor and like, oh, I didn't like the way I said that. Can I do it? Yeah, cool. Well, with film, you don't get that. You don't even know if it's exposed right? You're like light meter and tape measure and like the whole thing. And here's this guy like making this film in Hubbard, Ohio, and it's like this real kind of like grindhousey, gritty, because I'd see like pictures, and they started doing press on you too, so we'd see like pictures and stuff, and I'm like, oh man, like that's kind of cool, but I'm not gonna do these zombie films. I'm a dramatic filmmaker.
Let's talk about the day we met.
From way back. Oh, okay. What do you want to know?
But during shooting for that first film, I had gone to a film set that a local director and producer were doing. I was invited by Dominic Koulianos. He said, I'm going there tonight. I'm like, I want to come out and check it out.
Yeah, Spielberg? Yeah, I'll come out and do that. You gonna fly me out to LA? And I should bring Schotten and his mealworms. Sounds like a plan.
So I was on my first film, and I was casted as one of the leading characters opposite Dominic Koulianos.
Dominic's like, hey, come on over here, Bill. I want to introduce you to somebody. And I walk over, and there's this Italian girl.
And Dominic goes, I want to introduce you to someone. Now, this is someone you're going to want to know.
I'm a big deal,
And he introduced you. And do you remember what you said?
I think I led with an obscene joke, but I can't really remember what it was.
You did a very off-color joke.
Maybe I do. We're not going to talk about it.
Yeah, that was the first time we met, and we just hit it off, like right then and there. And then you used me in the short Nequatropic. We really had a blast, and I think that was kind of like what sparked everything, because then we got to officially work together. And I think you thought good acting was if someone memorized their lines, so you really thought I was the leading lady there. Like, she's so good, and I was awful.
God has a plan for people like you and me. And I know where I'm going. Right here. What if heaven's full? No room at the inn. You will never see paradise.
So, Bill got hired to shoot Sabbath, and they had already casted all the leads. And there was a falling out with the main girl, the lead, and you then hired me.
Go! We're all going to die!
Said, here's a script. I felt like a big deal, man. Here's the big opportunity role of a lifetime. We were going crazy with this one. We had guns on it. We had David Crawford from Dawn of the Dead on it. It was going to be massive. We had all kinds of new equipment to it, like dolly tracks, and we were gonna fix all the problems we had with Deadlight.
And I showed up that weekend, and that was really when we really started working together and got super close. We just did film after film after film together. So it was really Sabbath, that kind of Necrotropic. We knew we had great. We were all got along so wonderfully. It was great, and then Sabbath kind of solidified that.
And then we went on and did a bunch of movies through the years, through the 2000s. You know, that era. Some were better than others. Some enjoyed some commercial success, others not so much.
Oh man, it was some of the greatest times of my life. Like, it was so much fun. There was a deep friendship and like almost like a family. We were so close because we would show up at set first thing in the morning, and when we started Bloodlock, we were filming in the winter. And I remember our first weekend out was the Saturday after Thanksgiving, and we would show up early, and the coffee would take forever to brew, and Greg and I would stare at it, and it'd be like drip, 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 and we would just watch it. And it was just so amazing being with everybody.
You knew very early on this guy was really going for it, but you also knew really very early on, like, he understood the cinematic language. He might not have been able to execute it at the time because of the equipment or the experience or whatever it was, but he really, I could understand, like, oh, he's going for it.
Thank you, Angela.
So eventually, we had started shooting Silver Cell, and then Ashley had left for Vegas.
We were shooting Silver Cell, and this is also pre-Salvation. I had been married. I was getting a divorce. I left my husband, and I decided in the middle of filming to move to Vegas. And I was going out there, in all honesty, to party, to run and just be free.
Eventually, she became sort of hard to get a hold of while in Vegas.
So when I lived in Vegas, I was doing a lot of cocaine, ecstasy, kind of anything that would become available. And I remember my mindset back then and thinking, well, if I die, I didn't hurt anybody. It's just myself, so it doesn't really matter. And I realized like how backwards that thinking was when Christ actually saved me.
This is the way the world ends.
It's best to give up hope initially. It's easier on everyone that way. But I understand. Hope dies last.
And then I did quit the drugs. I went to college out there, but everything about Vegas I hated. I came back in February. I started another film with somebody else we acted with that ended up really going nowhere.
It was so nice to have her back home, you know. Things seemed as they were. I didn't know what was going on under the hood per se with Ash at the time.
The movie is being sponsored by an energy drink company. And in that, I had met a guy that was part of that company. And, you know, I was very attracted to him and he pursued me. I ended up going to be with him.
Things went terrible from that point.
It was a very, very abusive relationship. He was very, very physically, mentally abusive, and at this point, I'm still not saved yet. But when I say abusive, it wasn't like, oh, he got mad and would push me around. He actually enjoyed it, so he would beat me for pleasure.
That was a tough time in Ashley's life. I'm gonna leave it at that. I can't talk about it.
So Bill was the one who was always there for me through it all. So he would meet me, you know, and I'd be covered in bruises, and he would beg me. He wanted to take care of it. So, and I would say, no, I'm gonna get out. Please don't say anything. And I'd make a promise not to say anything. But he'd always check in with me every morning to make sure I was okay. And he knew if he didn't hear from me, he was making a trip to Pittsburgh. At any time, he was gonna come and get me. Many times I'd wake up after it happened because I'd be choked out, or, you know, and come to the next day. And Bill kept explaining to me, like, no, this is wrong, men don't do this. Bill never judged me. He just truly cared about me and cared about my safety and just wanted me to be away from this.
Ashley got out of that and got into a much more stable environment.
If I can go back, like, from when Dominic said, this is a man, you're gonna wanna know him. This is Bill Schott, and you're gonna wanna know him. He had no idea how those words, so many years later, coming to the point when Bill shared the gospel with me, those words are how true they would ring.
There was actually one review that said, I wish I could give this a negative star. Yeah, but in your genre, that's almost like a badge of honor, because that's supposed to be a little schlocky, right?
Yeah, actually, the badness of that movie actually sent it into a little bit of a cult status, so... And we are shooting Dead Life 2 next year.
We are?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I am, Jim. Me personally.
Okay.
Fast forward many years later, and Bill and I had met a couple times and talked, and fast forward many years later, and he's like, hey, man, you want to help me make this zombie movie? And I'm like, yeah, cool, I'll do it.
I met with Bill over in Hubbard, Ohio, and we struck it off right away. He said, hey, I got this role for you. Would you be interested in it? And I said, definitely. I read the script, and I actually liked it.
Yeah, it's a good bet we find some materials for the creeper cage here.
Yep.
So I got my start with Bill on Wormwood's End back here, and I played the character of Perry. I was a militiaman, and I tell you what, I had the best time of my life.
All right, let's do this.
So doing the independent, like the short films and stuff, I met Bill. I don't know if it was just a mutual friend, like, hey, I have a guy, he's doing this horror film, like kind of like a zombie thing. He needs some extras. Do you want to be an extra? And I don't know if I linked up with Bill, maybe texted him, called him, Facebook messaged, I don't know. But so I came on set for Wormwood's End, and it was a night shoot. I do remember that. I don't know if that's when I first met him. I think so. But I just thought it was so awesome. I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy has these cameras, and there's lighting, and there's sound, and people have microphones. Like, this is the real deal.
When Bill Shotton asks, you want to do this zombie movie, I'm like, yeah, I'll give you a day. A day? I want to give you 1 day.
For us at the time, it was a really big project because we had never done anything on that scope. And they had all been sort of amateur films. We were sort of dabbling in it.
I'll give you a day, whatever character you want to. Okay, cool, Jim, no problem. Several months later, the script comes over. I print it off. Julie Smith, who's our development director at Two Ticks, I go to lunch and I say, can you just highlight, the parts of Franco? Bill had said, oh, you're going to play this guy Franco. So I get back from lunch, and I do this. Yellow, yellow, yellow. So a yellow highlighter. What? I call Bill, I go, this isn't 1 day, man. No, well, he goes, I didn't want to, like puffing your ego up. He was like, I didn't want to waste your talent, man. So.
But I did get to be like, I don't know if they're prosthetics, is that what you call it? As a zombie, like the zombie bride, actually.
And Bill shot on these DSLRs, like, I don't know if it's like a 60D or something. They're nice cameras, though. And, you'd show up and there's like these little cameras around. And I remember thinking, like, I don't know, man, like, we shoot commercials on these things now, but we also, like, that's our B camera. We've got, like, a bigger HD, We're shooting this movie on these, like, DSLRs, and then to see it projected at the Canton Palace Theater, and and the people I was with, my wife, my brother-in-law, and his girlfriend, they were like, "This thing's like a real movie. Like it looked really good, and sounded really good, and was super cool."
No! Stop! Please!
It was some time, I can't remember when, they do videos on various members of the church and just their story. And Pastor Nick did a video about Bill.
And so I want to introduce you this morning to Bill Shotton. Bill is a good friend of mine, and he's been on staff here at Old North since last summer. He works the magical tech booth back there and does all those wizard things that create this on the internet. And God has saved him and given him an incredible story.
And it was just showing how he had been doing horror films, and now how the Lord used supernatural events to wake him up, and he humbled himself and turned to the Lord. And it was a beautiful story.
I forgot all about God, to be honest with you. By late 2015 is when I properly managed to run my proverbial ship right into the rocks.
And so Bill was always the rock. He was always solid, could depend on him for everything, anything, like always the voice of reason, stable. Come 2015, now Bill is going through his thing and gets into drug addiction, into things like research chemicals, and now I get angry.
I began to sort of burn the candle at both ends. And as a result, I began sort of researching synthetic cathinones to stay up and work. They're also known as research chemicals. They're analogs of amphetamines and different kind of drugs.
It's not the Bill that was there through everything. It's now it felt like he was gone forever. So that was one of the hardest years was 2015. So we would fight all the time because now I'm mad at him and now he's struggling. And yeah, not my finest moments, I can definitely say that.
Ashley didn't She didn't. She has a hard time when I'm having a hard time.
That year was so hard because it wasn't my friend anymore. I thought he was gone, and I'm kind of like an all or nothing kind of, so it's like, oh, well, you're gone, then they're gone forever. Like, and it was easier for me to be angry than to cry, to be sad. So I would fight and I would fight and I'd fight and I'd yell at him.
We went from being just the best of friends to being sort of tumultuous friends. I didn't wear drug addiction well. And Ashley didn't wear a friend of a drug addict well either. So we were at each other. At one point, we were planning a film. I think we were planning to do a sequel to Messiah of Evil, or we were a remake of Messiah of Evil. And I didn't want to make another movie again. Drugs take everything from you. And
but praise the Lord, he saved him and restored him. And he is more solid than ever before, because now he has the mind of Christ, the Holy Spirit is within him, and he is so incredible, and his talents and his skills have just grown exponentially. Like, the Lord has blessed him so much, and in turn blessed all of us who are part of Five Stone Filmworks, blessed me for his friendship. So there's so much to be thankful for God in everything he has done.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I haven't seen you in a while.
I know. How you been?
Oh, I'm good. Good. So you
How long has Truck World been here?
Oh, I don't really know. My whole life, that's for sure.
I think it's just a really, like, it makes me feel like it's just a place that kind of stays pre-2000s, right? Like the 80s or something. I just love that. Like, I long for that time period.
Well, the charm is not what it used to be. It used to be a lot more charming because there was a lot more going on here. These shops used to all be filled.
Yeah.
There used to be a girl that sits out there shining shoes for a living.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The arcade used to be full of games down there, and that's where the hangout was on the weekends. Was the kids would hang out in the arcade.
Did you used to?
I did not, but Jeff Robeck used to. So I thought I'm gonna write one of those like end of the world Bible movies where, you know, all kinds of crazy stuff happens, and, you know, Book of Revelations, and, you know, how cool would that be? So first it was called A Murder of Crows, I think, and then but finally we ended with Day of the Lord because it reminded me of Day of the Dead, which was one of my favorite movies. I'm going to shoot a proof of concept, and of course I wrote it. Who was going to star in this thing? But it was going to be Ashley.
It was a great script. It would have been so much fun to film, but we embarked on our proof of concept. Bill was trying to get some of the old crew together, and
I thought it would be one of these, if you write it, they will come sort of. It didn't work that way. I wrote it, and I'm like, why isn't the church community beating a path to my door to make this movie?
My. Geiger do that to you, baby?
I've been worse.
I'll send you home with a few Percocets, okay?
But one thing I did see was that Ash and Jen worked so well together. I was like, yeah, they've got chemistry. They're good.
You sure Stoney won't mind?
I'll handle him.
You good to go?
I feel like it would creep people out with was it the mark of the beast thing on that, something with the credit card on there.
It was worth a try.
And just reading that, I'm like, I've heard about that since I was, growing up in a Christian household. My mom was like, don't get this number, that kind of stuff.
Bought and paid for by the Mahdi's new one world government.
Yeah, so Day of the Lord, it died on the vine. It didn't have that it factor, but then came the abiding now.
So I called Ashley up and she says, how you doing? I go, I'm good. I just got out of church. Hey, check this out. I want to do this. I heard this story about this that Nick told. It's one of those old pastor stories that they tell during, like they mix it in to make the sermons more interesting. I want to make a short film about it. I think it'd be cool. Do you want to do it?
I loved it. So then he started writing it and he's like, hey, I think this is turning into a feature.
I write horror films. I mean, that was always my thing. I was always doing horror films.
So he would start to send me the pages as he wrote it. I was like, wow, I didn't even know you could write like this. I mean, usually we've been doing horror for like 20 years.
Horror films were like the most, they're the biggest part of my life growing up. So for me to write something like this is sort of weird.
The script was just such a beautiful story. It was coming out and the characters were developed so well. And I was like, I think God's hands on you on this. Like, this was really amazing. I fell in love with it.
I had run the live stream and I'd run into Andy on the way out of my tech booth.
We'd see Bill walking around up there and I got to talking to him, getting to know him, and he mentioned that he was hoping to do a film. I thought, oh, that's interesting. Let me find out more. And we got to talking and it sounded like an exciting project. He told me a little bit of the story. He even gave me the script at some point. I thought, this is something that I could see getting involved with.
Bill gave him the abiding now, and in the meantime, Bill gets COVID. Really, it was the Delta variant, so he was so sick, like dying virtually. I mean, really in bad shape.
We have a little extra savings sitting around. Maybe this is something we can invest in, see what happens. And I talked to some other people, and it turned out my sister was also interested in investing as well, and so both of us ended up jumping in.
Don't call me that. And in the midst of like this, how sick he is, he gets an email from Andy, and him and his sister are interested in investing in the film. And Bill was so sick, he almost threw the whole project off.
And I panicked. Because of the state I was in, I almost told him, forget it. Forget about the whole thing. Forget it.
And I was like, no, just please don't do that. And thank God he rallied and realized, what am I doing?
I gave him a brief response. Hey, dude, I'm really sick, man. I got COVID real bad, and I think I'm dying.
But it was so much responsibility, because not only at that time, he was working at the church, he had another job, and now he's going to take on doing a feature film that he's going to direct. He's going to be the DP on, he's going to do the editing. I mean, it was like very challenging at that point.
But that one good day I remember thinking, I'm going to make a freaking movie, man.
And I remember, though, showing up that first day, and I was like, I'm working for Jesus. I'm working for Jesus. That's what it felt like, because I knew this was God's film. Tell me where the choker.
Here, how about right there?
Yeah, that's good.
Good?
Does that look like the 90s?
Oh, yeah, it looks like,
Is it?
I wanted to wear my damn...
There's water bottles you can stick in there.
Well,
playing this role and really being able to capture an audience in the truth of what healing through Christ is, and hoping that the film bears fruit.
He's so cute.
Cameras rolling. All right. Abiding now. Scene 46, take 7. Mark. Action.
Oh, hi, Derek.
Miss Larson.
What are you doing here?
I met Bill Shotton a few years back. I was on a little production Met him for the first time. He jumped up on the porch, and I was like, oh, this guy's full of energy. I see he really got into his craft.
We met on a movie shoot where I'd driven to Ohio from Pennsylvania to be a part of this shoot, and he was running camera for them. Well, we instantly had a connection.
There you go. Put a hand on it for me.
To the old road.
I met Bill on another production I was working on. It was, I believe, second or third movie I was on. It was the first time working with a real professional cameraman. And I was really just taking everything in. I've always been super fascinated with the whole thing. I've always wanted to have something to do with movies pretty much since I learned movies were made.
Let's have a look here.
Kind of took in the whole thing. I was blown away by his work. It was the first time I'd seen something really professional, you know, quick to set up, quick to tear down, move on, because it's what he did for a living. It wasn't what he did for a hobby.
What do you think, Bill? Cookie, no cookie? Chris Goff was another guy I met. As a matter of fact, he was the first guy I hired on The Abiding Nail, because I posted this thing that we were going to make this movie, and Chris reaches out and says, I want to be involved.
You know, I'm interested in making a movie, whatever. I knew it was a faith-based film. He was transparent about that from the beginning. I knew that was.
I said, Chris, it's a Christian film. I mean.
He thinks I'm a heretic.
He goes, I don't care. I want to work on a movie. I'm like, hey, cool. So I made Chris the production manager right away.
On Tuesday, I would get Chris's email. I loved it. Every Tuesday, he'd be like, "Oh, well, it's Tuesday again, everyone. Here's who needs to show up and what day and what time and where."
Shooting with Bill was definitely like professional, and it was awesome.
Let's move back, Bill. Let's throw that 85 on there, man. Let's just get crazy, you know? Go nuts.
Get nuts.
Running with scissors.
He had a wealth of knowledge that the rest of us didn't have at the time. So he had done commercial work and other films, and you know, he had a more in-depth understanding of how cameras and lighting and acting actually worked.
This trailer represents a milestone because we actually have never had something like this before. We fitted that trailer with shelving and racking. We had never had like a big portable sort of like production trailer that was laid out like it was. And the wardrobe was in there. There was a garment rack in there, and we ended up hanging up all the wardrobe. A big obstacle was, where in the heck are we going to shoot this thing? I mean, we need this big, beautiful farm. Yeah, I mean, we got farms around here, but nothing looked like that storybook farm with the long lane going to it. A friend of mine at Old North Church named Emma, she mentioned it to Dan, her husband, who was also suffering from cancer. Dan mentioned somebody, maybe it'll work out. Dan passed shortly after that.
We met at a funeral, and Emma, Dan's wife, said, "There's someone we want you to meet," and walked right away from the line and took us back to meet Bill.
Keep in mind, Emma's grieving over her husband, who she lost way too early. And she grabs me by the hand and pulls me over. She said, "Bill, I want you to meet somebody." And in Emma's grief, she saw fit to connect me with the Conkles at her husband's funeral. Whenever it shouldn't have even been a second thought, right? So that's why the film was dedicated to Dan. You know, it was important to me that without Dan, this film wouldn't have had the look that it had.
You kind of caught us off guard. We usually don't start cleaning up the place till like...
This place is perfect. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
this is
no.
beautiful.
Spring cleaning hasn't taken... We're actually just planting today.
Came in the driveway, he noticed a cross that we had years before, put on our silo. Our barn, which had been taken down by a massive snow. So I took a beam from that and built a cross. And because it was devastating, the family farm has been here for 163 years. It was a physical reminder to me every day that I went to work, that I would back out of the garage. It was a physical reminder of a spiritual truth, that Jesus Christ was in charge of that day. He had died for me on that cross for my sins. And so it changed my attitude. That every day that I backed out, I looked in my rearview mirror, and there was that cross.
What brings you to the Fin and Feather tonight?
Just driving home after bingo night, John. What are you doing out here so late?
A little beer, dancing on a Friday night, that's all.
Beer? John, need I remind you, you were once a man of the cloth yourself.
Bill and I, Bill the director and the writer of The Abiding Nail, he does all the audio and video for the Pregnancy Help Center. They wanted me to do my testimony of my past experience with abortion. And in that moment, a door that was locked and chained in the deepest, darkest part of my soul burst open, and a voice that seemed as loud as I'm talking to you now laughed at me, telling me, "Who do you think you are?" After I was done, he looked at me and he goes, "That was really well done." He said, "Have you ever done any acting?"
Uh-oh. You know, I got a bone to pick with you.
What did I do now?
You've been keeping the best looking girl.
You know, he's still interested in doing some acting. Yes. And he goes, and this was like the clincher, right? Because he's like, because, you know, when we did Wormwood's End, it was like all gratis, you know, you just kind of, you're doing it for the love of the art. He's like, we actually have a budget and you're going to get paid this time. What? If you don't have a plan, you're planning for failure, basically. So on The Abiding Nail, we get the script. And Ashley and I had done a couple of like virtual rehearsals where we did like FaceTime. We read the script and we did FaceTime, and then we talked about the characters, and obviously there was a comfort level with Ashley because I'd worked with her on Wormwood's End, and she's like a pro. She's done, you know, so many more projects in front of the camera than I have.
Like a flat rock. They'll do this.
Oh,
That's
okay.
another way to do it.
Gotcha.
I hope not. They're married.
So who's on your bill?
They were
On your
married.
side?
Yeah.
You're gonna be like.
Sorry.
What experience have you had with sound work before?
Got a couple hours. I've been doing it since '76. Lot of mostly audio. I'm mostly an audio guy, so I see with my ears. But done actual sound capture on other film sets in the past. But I've done a lot of audio recording for classical concerts, you know, that type of thing.
So what's your favorite part of being on set here?
Learning all the new stuff that there is and seeing production from a visual producer's standpoint, and just watching how he manages all of the personnel and all of the talent. It's very cool.
Because he kept saying, he goes, "This is Mahoney County. These are good people." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'm from Trumbull County. Okay, let me do my job, George. Go have a seat." But since that's smaller, more intimate group, maybe do fish because that would be easier. Okay. But maybe an alternative for people who don't eat fish, because there may be people that don't eat fish.
Oh, sorry. You know, chicken patties. Oh, we do.
Chicken patties. So you know, like the chicken patties.
Do you want it right there?
Anything else you'd like to complain
Do you
about?
want it?
You know that, or you know, where you make chicken sandwiches, that sort of thing. That might.
School lunch again.
School lunch, yeah, man, yeah.
A lot of Bill's history as a child and got to come through in the script. Like, he put a horror host, Cleve Hammer, in The Abiding Nail.
It's midnight.
Hello again, friends. Once again, it's midnight.
The term is used, and I didn't know this term until later on in life. They call them monster kids, right? Those are you have the kids, you have the normal kids who they go out and they play baseball and football and all that kind of stuff. And but then you have like the weird kids who are really into weird stuff, like horror films, monster movies. They're the ones, instead of going out and playing baseball on Saturday, they stay home and watch Superhost host Godzilla movies all afternoon. And that was me.
He grew up on those shows with horror hosts, and he'd watch them with his grandma.
Hey, Bill, what did you do this weekend? I watched Motel Hell, a movie about a guy who chops people up and makes sausage out of them, with my grandma.
Oh. Come on back in for a minute, gang. Let your stomach settle down a little bit.
I don't know if you see behind me, those are movies. And most of them are horror, sci-fi, stuff like that. So not much has changed in Bill's world. I should wander into the background like.
Oh, that'd be funny.
Like I'll just be like.
These all have shimmer to them.
I'm trying to get away.
That is crazy looking. Chris, look at this.
I have a feeling putting the hair back would be creepier.
I like it, just like it is.
I like it however Bill likes it.
I like your attitude.
Thank you.
Full overexposure pose. And action.
Good morning, Miss Lenny. Today you'll be reading for the role of Angry Daughter.
Better left.
That side looked pretty good. This side.
Yeah, I was so afraid of.
You're right, it is really low.
I didn't really know what to say, but I noticed that too.
Oh, that looks awesome.
Give me more.
Oh,
I like that. Give me more, Bill.
Mother.
All right, that's good, Bill.
Can we do that again?
Yeah.
All right, that's good. Let's clean it up.
I was on the phone with my buddy the other day, and I was like making a joke, and I go, hey man, I hate to cut you off. I gotta go. I gotta take my kid to a soccer game. And he's like, that's right, Jimmy. Leave them laughing. Leave them on a high note, right? I think that's like what you do with acting, right? You want to leave that scene. You want to cut into the middle of it, right? The Latin term's in medias res. You want to get it in the middle of it, and you want to get out early while it's still a high point. Because then the next scene, if you can stack a bunch of those scenes together, man, you probably got a pretty good movie.
We did that. All right, man, we're knocking them down. We have to. You know what? I love this idea. Let's have you come to him. You stand in the doorway. Make her come to you. I'm sorry, man. It's about, it's about the chase. Oh,
Do you want me to give him a hug?
Do you want to give him a hug?
Would I hug you if you came to my movie premiere?
Sure, yeah. Not that she hasn't been to one of my movie premieres, right? We've done 9 movies together.
Bill actually was telling me I was doing angel tarot cards, and Bill said to me, hey, that's angel worship, and he basically said you're gonna end up in hell, and that was terrifying enough for me to say, oh no, like wait, what? And I always believed in God, but I had no relationship. That started this deep dive into me actually reading the Bible, listening to John MacArthur. What a blessing to my life.
I met Ashley for the first time there, and she almost in tears just thanking me for what we did. I'm like, yeah, great. I was happy to be a part of this, and she's just so into this film. You could tell she's pouring herself into it with everything she had.
She was very welcoming, You know, I've never done this before. She's done it multiple times. I was nervous, I was scared. She took me by the hand, she prayed with me.
When I acted prior to salvation, I acted for myself, I acted for my own glory, and now my acting I want to use to glorify Him.
Up in his garage, there's three. What's his old building? He had the back just full of stuff. And they were sending him to.
All right, everybody settle. And action.
Dad. Dad, is it true? No.
Before we did that scene, we went outside the barn, and we talked. I said, tell me a little bit about yourself, because I wanted to calm her down, you know, because it was an important scene and she was getting a little nervous about it. And I said, tell me about growing up, tell me about your dad, tell me about your childhood. And so she shared a lot of things with me, and then I shared a lot of things with her. And when we did that, then we prayed together.
I don't cry. I'm not that kind of person. It literally broke everyone's heart there.
Keith was sitting outside when we were doing the barn scene, and I see him in the background, and we shoot the scene. When Bill said cut, I looked up, and he's crying. He's over there wiping his eye. He's getting his hanky out. It's enough trouble for today.
That was so intense, but so what that movie was about. It's about Jesus Christ, and the Father shared with her, I'm fine. I'll be all right.
Will you help me with that, bro? You know, and he came over and he gave me a hug. And he said, wow, that was really, really well done.
I am very careful on the roles I take. My focus is Christ, so I know how deep to go into things. And, you know, I mean, ultimately it's about Him, so that's changed my whole perception of acting and how I develop my character and how I look at a script.
I didn't understand God and faith, and I didn't really understand it. And I thought, well, it's too late for me anyway. I didn't follow all these rules. Well, then I met Bill, and Bill talked to me a lot about God, because our daughter had a stroke at 20 years old, and she's paralyzed from her whole right side of her body's paralyzed. I was devastated. My wife was devastated. Everybody was devastated because now our daughter's handicapped. I was very mad at God for letting that happen to a girl that in her 20s still went to church on her own. And Bill explained to me it was probably evil that made that happen to my daughter for being such a good person. There is hope. As long as you believe in Christ, it's not too late for me to go to heaven too.
That's how they felt.
It's the truth, man.
You know, this business is like hurry up and wait. You get there and you got your lines, and you know you're snack. If you're on this side of the camera, you're snacking on craft services, and the bees, the worker bees, the camera and the crew, they're just moving around or whatever, and you're just off like reading your lines and making sure you're kind of staying calm and breathing and being relaxed. And so it was such a great experience because I felt like, A, my time's being respected because they have all their components together. And Bill would be like setting up lights, and they're testing camera and testing sound, and they're just doing these different things. And I'd show up and it'd already like mostly be set up.
Yeah, on the other side.
Oh man, that thing looks like it belongs to a homeless person. Got it. Okay, dividing nails, scene 30, take 10, mark.
Quick question. Am I happy he's here right now? Like, what am I, like, at this moment, like...
Oh my gosh, cut.
Wait, what am I feeling? What is my motivation?
I will just say that this film, for those 15 Saturdays, everything was absolutely organized in its place. There was never any question. If there was, Bill was right there to answer it. And you know what? That's another thing I love about Bill Shotton. If he says we're going to set up for some kind of scene, he'll shut it all down and describe the whole thing to you, why we call it that, what we're doing, this is how it goes. And I loved that, because if you don't know much about filmmaking, you don't know what a 50-50 shot is, you don't know the fourth wall, You don't know, and he'll shut it all down and he'll explain it all to you in a very kindergarten way, which I need that, in a very loving way, which we all need that, because people are like, oh, just let me tell you. And it's like, no, he took the time out every time. And I will say the one thing that blew me away was when Bill shot and lit your face up in direct sunlight. Oh!
So when Ross had approached me about playing this part here, he's like, oh yeah, it's a quick one-liner, you in, out, no problem, you can do it. I was like, well, are you sure, you know, what kind of character is he? He goes, oh, it's a grumpy old man, you'll be fine. That's all I needed to hear.
You Jezebels are breathing the fires of hell, and I'm gonna tell the world.
Just being a one-liner, I figured, well, I don't need to know much backstory, whatever, I go in and do a one-liner. After the movie come out and I seen it though, wow. That's about the best I can sum it up, wow.
This must be loosening up a little bit.
Tell me the plan for the next shot.
Next shot is the growing cross shot. Dolly in, when you dolly in, something in front of you becomes bigger. When you zoom in, you're just making the frame bigger. You dolly in, everything gets bigger. The parallaxing feature of the dolly. That's why we dolly, we don't zoom.
Well, I built a lot of things in Pooh House. This, I had the idea from your rig, Bill. I'm not gonna shell out a lot of money because I don't really do this a lot. But for a hobby, I had to come up with how to make a nice track, you know, sled. So I actually went and bought, like, the wheels are about the most, expensive part of this whole thing. Those are skateboard wheels with really nice bearings, so they're real nice and quiet. I have this so I could raise this up. So, I mean, this sucker will go up pretty high if you want to get some different kinds of shots. Around here, our budget's low, so we got to come up with our own rigs and things like that.
And Floyd, how much room do you have to the edge of the stage? That's the edge. Go right to the edge. Don't fall off. Okay, stand up straight. Why are you standing like that, man?
I think it was a good time on the set of Abiding Now. There was a lot of laughs. That's one thing I like to do, because when I don't know about anybody else, but I get nervous. I'm human. And, you know, there was a lot of times where we would set and you're waiting for your part to come up or your script. And you're sitting there and you get to laugh with somebody and it eases the tension a little bit.
Bill didn't know I was creating Smokey Bear production film company. It was in conjunction with my wife, Casey, and my nephew, James Ross. We came up with the idea, hey, you know, I myself love working in front of the camera, don't get me wrong, but after doing it for a lot of years, you want to do something behind the scenes. So we had talked about starting our own production company.
Yeah, I think we shot her in the foot and threw her in the creek.
Kicked her to the curb.
In 2019, we sat down and we actually talked about how it was about a year before the COVID hit in 2020, and Jim and his wife, Casey, came to my apartment and they visited me. And I remember looking at them and we all came up with the idea, man, let's get cameras and let's start doing our own movies.
Claude's brought me through a lot. I almost passed away in 2021 with COVID. You know, and I owe God a lot. So he saved my life a few times, and I'm very grateful for that. So I do have a meaning here on earth, and I do want to pay my respects back to him, and I will be creating faith-based films in the near future.
Feature films are a lot of work. Anybody who's actually shepherded one from beginning to end knows how difficult they are.
Pooh House Productions started when I met a man named Ross Carlo. He was the most interesting character that you could ever meet on a movie set.
The movie Cannibal Tick was originally made by Bill Long. I watched it when we were making another movie over here at the Pooh House. I watched it while we were in between sets and stuff.
I gotta get us the hell out of here.
It was a zero budget movie. It was in a building that I was working in where the owner allowed us to use it. They had lots of empty offices and freight elevators. And we got together a group of people that wanted to make a film, and well, it turned out pretty good. It never got distributed, but it was a good start and a good learning process.
I have an idea for Cannibal Tick, to make it or to remake it. And next thing you know, we just started coming up, brainstorming with some ideas. And
it was a pretty wild ride. I mean, we had very long nights. Sometimes it slipped into a party atmosphere, and there were a lot of strange characters that showed up to be a part of it, but everybody had a great time.
Shooting Cannibal Tick was chaos, absolute chaos, but we did it. No script, just like, hey, we're shooting tonight. Okay.
kind of made an outline, but other than that, it was all just ad-lib, everything. And it was fun, it was cheesy, but we loved it. And man, we just went full force for it, and it was great.
Some people might call me a hoarder. I collect a lot of strange and unusual things, mainly for movies, for props, for costumes, I mean, anything that we can use.
I like that little pink dress.
Excuse me.
All right, Bill, when you come here, what do you look for?
Well, as far as movies go, I like to look for props, costumes. It's a great resource for, especially if you're doing like a period piece. You can find things that are outdated and old.
But I'm like, oh shoot, I just looked at my calendar and I got that party. I'm like, I gotta find a costume. See, I'd like to do that, but the pressure of trying to get in makes me nervous.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I need
crowds.
to take my time, and if I have to wait in line, I can't fight. I hate crowds.
Multi-function citizen band.
Oh, it's a CB.
Yeah.
It is a CB. I was right.
What does Karen say whenever you come home with this sort of stuff?
Well, when she does see it and I don't get to hide it in the garage before she sees it, her first question is always, what are you going to do with that? Honestly, I don't know. Use alcohol and a Q-tip to clean them. Have 3 already, so.
I know, yeah.
I always wanted one of these when I was little.
2000s, but.
Yeah, maybe that's not.
What kind of media do you collect?
I watch it on streaming.
Action! You just gotta figure it out. There he goes. And cut. What are you doing? What are you?
I think you might have to do that again.
Okay.
No.
No. I'm waiting for. I'm like, Ash, walk up. Oh, that looks terrible. Come on, Ash.
When I met Ashley for the first time was here at Old North when I came to read, and right away I realized, you know, her and my own daughter are pretty much the same age. She's a sweetheart. You know, she's a loving woman. She's a beautiful woman. She's a God-fearing woman. She's all these things that my own daughter is. And so it was easy to make that transition to look at Ashley and say, you know, you're my child.
My father and I don't have a relationship. You know, when I was a little girl, I used to play pretend all the time, and I would pretend that I had a dad who loved me. So I would be downstairs playing, and I'd always imagine that I had this dad that was coming to see me and he was gonna hug me really big, and I would always play that role. Well, not knowing I always had that in my Heavenly Father, and that was just one of the greatest gifts that Christ could ever gave me, and how he said, I'll never forsake you. That just, I hang on to that. And I love him so much, and I don't ever want to be away from him. I don't ever want to walk apart from him. He's everything that I ever wanted as a little girl before I even knew. So now fast forward to the Abiding Now. In the film, Wally represents the Heavenly Father and his love and his patience, his compassion. And I believe Bill wrote that so well and Wally delivered it, because that is the life that Wally lives. It's true to his nature.
One of the reasons why I was so attracted to the role was John Sjostrom was such a godly man. He was everything that God asks us to be. You know, he loves his neighbors as he loves himself. He's always helpful. He's always there for them. He's always walking through life with them. I mean, that's the kind of man I always wanted to be. And it was the man that I was so far from being when I was in my early 20s. I went through 3 abortion experiences when I was in high school and early 20s, which devastated me. When I came out the other end of that, I thought I was less of a man, that I had no right to be a father. And then when I became a father, I thought, you know, how am I supposed to love and to cherish these children when I killed 3 other children? So I was very hard on myself. I had huge anger issues, very verbally abusive. So I had all these things going on in me, and what that was doing, it was destroying my marriage. We had this big fight, and she ran out of the house with our baby, John Michael, at the time. And it turns out that our neighbors were a pastor and his wife. And here's my wife pounding on in the middle of winter, freezing outside. She's pounding on her door. She comes to the door, lets her in, and she's sobbing, saying, my husband this and that, and we're gonna get divorced and all these things. And she invited my wife, Beth Ann, to a Bible study. And it was through that Bible study that my wife gave her life to Christ. My pastor at the time, Howard Carpenter, and he sits down with me and he goes, Wally, you've been coming to church, you've been hearing the sermon, you know what it means to be a Christian and having Christ in your life. He goes, what's stopping you? And I said, how can I ask this perfect Son of God into my heart? I said, it's a garbage can. It's filled with filth. I said, I need to clean myself up before I can ask him in. And he laughed. And he said, Wally, you can't do that. I said, that's what he does for you. And so about 2 weeks go by, and it's Easter Sunday. And he had an altar call at the end of his sermon. And he turned his back to the congregation, he was praying. And I'm sitting in the chair or in the pew, and I'm rocking back and forth, and I'm sweating. Literally, sweat is coming down, and I'm thinking, I need to go up, I need to do this, and I won't. And I said, I'm too proud for it, I'm not gonna do it. And then all of a sudden, I found myself running towards the altar. And I remember, I tapped Howard on the shoulder, and he turned around, and he was crying. He says, I knew it was you. I gave my life to Christ that day.
He's gonna be wiping it off. He's gonna be wiping it off with that. You know what?
What a life changer the movie was for us, for our family, meeting the people, the relationships, got to share with them, you know, our life, their life with us. It's just a wonderful experience. Mm-hmm.
The film crew actually ended up being family, so really a blessing to us to get to know everyone and be a part of it. So we joined in gladly.
Okay, cameras rolling. The Abiding Now, scene 19, take 8, mark. All right, and action.
Well, my niece had the opportunity to play the part of Ness as a younger girl, and she was more than happy and willing to be a part of it. But little did I know she actually had acting ability, and everybody contributed and brought that out of her, and she actually learned some acting skills just being coached, and we were just so proud of her. So
it's interesting.
Different, huh?
Yeah.
He did theater, so this is his first.
Yeah, this is different.
Yeah.
Way
This is shot
different.
for
A little
shot.
bit.
Yeah. Okay, so.
I'd rather be like a
I also remember that one time when at the beginning, Bill was like, we're going to put you at the very beginning of the show, too.
We got a clown on a four-wheeler driving Cleve Hammer down. I mean, just very like out of the box thinking.
Midnight movie on Fridays at midnight on Channel 11 KMBD. Don't miss it. Hammer's Midnight movie.
And I was like, what? He's like, yeah. He goes, I think that'll bring it in. Like, what kind of movie are we going to watch here?
A couple of things with the rain scene. One, Ross made the contraption that made it rain, you know, which was amazing to me. You know, he put a lot of work into the PCV pipe and all whatever he did to make that work.
They had built a machine and hoisted it up above the power lines, and that worried me because we have three-phase power here. It's high-end stuff.
And I put it on chains and straps and everything. We ran a hose to the top of it, raised it up about 20 feet. It goes about 20 feet, and it just rained. I was like, yes.
I just thought that was fascinating, you know, that, you know, the special effects that went into all of that.
I didn't know that in movies. You have to light up the rain. You have to backlight that. And when you don't backlight it, you don't see it, unless you just see little reflections, and it does nothing. But once he backlit it, I was like, he made my creation come to life, and I was like, yes!
And I thought, you know, how professional you all were, because I come out of the door, and Ashley was down on her knees out in the lawn and just crying, sobbing. And I thought, oh no, what has happened? And I started to walk over to her, and one of the ladies walked over, and I thought, well, yeah, they'll see what's going on here. And Ashley stood up and she said, how was that? And I was just blown away, but not only that, I was embarrassed because I thought for sure something tragic had happened.
So some of the industrial shoots that I went on with Bill were, I got to see another aspect of filmmaking, the commercial part of it, where, you know, you're making a person or a product look good, and it's slightly different from making a movie or a film in the respect that, you know, you're focused on one thing. It's not the sets and the scenery and, you know, the fancy words and costumes. You're actually shooting real people doing real things. And after we had done several shoots, and we had gotten to the point where I started to learn all the equipment, and, you know, I worked well with Bill, and he asked me after that, you know, if I would be the assistant director, and I was floored. I was so happy.
Right on. Good morning. How you doing, Wyatt?
Pretty
You
good.
good?
How are you?
Last day, baby. Bring yours up, Jack. I think this is gonna do it. I'm gonna drive the Cavalier.
Which mount do you want on?
I think we're gonna. What I want to do is I want to set up the big tripod, the big silver one. Yep. So we need the donut. I want the big head on it there, so we'll have to take it off of there because we need something as rock steady as possible so that we don't have any vibration or shifting because of the green screen. It's on.
Maybe a 50-50 chance.
What's that? What did you do?
Left my memory card in my
Oh, that'll be fine. You know how many times I've washed memory cards?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Roll audio. Rolling. Camera's rolling. And go ahead, start rocking. And action.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight?
not a singer. Actually, you sounded pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. You sounded better than I thought you would. Are you ready?
Yep.
Woo! Look at that.
No hit. Right in Ashley's face.
Hey, I told you we'd do it sooner or later. 10 years ago, I said, we're going to make a movie and I'm going to pay you guys. And 10 years, it took us 10 years.
I know it's probably cliche, but it's a family. I mean, you work all summer long with people I've never known. I didn't know any of these people. You know, I didn't know Bill, I didn't know Ashley, none of them. And by the time you're done, you share so many moments and so many long hours together. I mean, you become like a family, and it was hard. For weeks after that, it's like I was missing something.
No, it was a fun, exciting experience to be a part of a Christian film. You know, you say Hollywood, or we almost say Holly weird. You know, just just so much smut coming out, and it's nice to have good, clean entertainment that, especially a compelling story that's based on a faith walk, a walk toward the Lord, and it was an exciting thing. I hope to be a part of it again. We'll see what the Lord has in store.
Grab your popcorn. A new movie premiered at Columbiana's Main Street Theater this weekend. But what makes this one special is that the man behind the film is from right here in the Valley. William Schotten of Hubbard wrote, produced, and directed The Abiding Nail. And it's about a woman who makes it big in Hollywood, but then develops an addiction that forces her back to the small town she grew up in. There, she goes to rehab and reconnects with her faith and her family, and Schotten calls the premiere a true labor of love.
Yeah, the first time I got to see The Abiding Nail at the premiere in the theater, it was a Playhouse. They had the screen set up. It really blew me away. There were so many little things that were done so well, and it was a beautiful looking movie. All of the shot, it looked like it had 100 times the budget that it did.
It was so exciting. I had people from out of town, family from out of town, from Virginia. They came in just to see the film, which I thought was so special. And my brothers, my sister, friends in the neighborhood, so many people showed up. And we packed the place. I think there was like 400 seats, and they were all full.
Oh, there were so many people that came out. What was there? 200 or more people, 300? I don't remember how many that theater held, but just being there with the audience and all of us watching it together for the first time.
You know, we've been in audiences with The Abiding Nail. People are crying.
Who can take the guilt to
I knew it was coming. I acted in the film.
And I'm like, don't cry, don't keep it together. You have so much makeup on.
I got a tear in my eye. Like, this moved me. So that's a talent to have. Not everybody and not every filmmaker can do that, no matter how technical they are. That's the talent part of it, I think. So there is talent on that side, and it's important to have it.
But then you look around, you see everyone else just like wiping their eyes and crying too, and you're like, yes.
I knew it was gonna be beautiful, and it was. It is a movie for everyone. Anyone can watch this movie.
A couple of people came up to me and said, well, that wasn't much of a stretch for you, was it? I go, what do you mean? She goes, well, you're so much like that person. That was a compliment.
The plan was to make the film, enter it into a bunch of film festivals, and then ultimately the big film festival where all these films want to be is the International Christian Film Festival in Orlando, Florida. And that's where we wanted to be.
So we had entered it into a bunch of film festivals, both secular and Christian. And then we found out we were official selection for the International Christian and Music Festival in Orlando. That was the big one. That was the one we wanted to get in. And then they were going to announce all the categories who was nominated. And so I'm listening, like just watching it and the name, and I'm not really paying attention because I don't know. I honestly didn't think it was even like it was even a possibility.
Here are the nominees for Best Lead Actress in a Feature Film. Aliyah Hadjigal, Look Up Child. Ashley Rozzi, The Abiding Nail.
I was just shocked. I was in disbelief. I don't know.
Here are the nominees for Best Lead Actor in a Feature Film.
I was sitting at home watching TV with Beth Ann, and the phone rings. And I looked down, and Bill Shotton. I said, "Ooh, okay, what's Bill want?" And I answered, and he says, "Do you feel it?" I go, "What?" He goes, "Your life has just changed."
Sean Patrick Flannery, Nefarious. Walter Valentine, The Abiding Nail.
"You've got to be kidding me." And he goes, "This is the one we wanted." He said, "You and Ashley both were nominated for Best Actress and Best Actor." And I said,
"Oh my goodness, we're going to Orlando." And Bill said, "I don't know if you really understand the gravity of like what you got nominated for, like how big this is." And I don't think I did.
And then when we got down there and we got to see some of the other films and some of the other actors, I was honored. Because some of those guys were so good. And I'm thinking, my goodness.
By being nominated, it was a chance to show our movie. So it was just really, really exciting. Being in Orlando was such a gift for our film. It felt like we had really reached the end, right? Like that was it. That's what we had worked for all these years. Bill and I are sitting there, we're like, man, we didn't really meet anybody who we thought, because we thought, you know, we were gonna sign them film, and we're like, And I go, well, you wanted to go see some of these speakers. And I go, oh, there's only 30 minutes left. And Bill goes, that's right, let's go anyway. And so we go in, and it's Rich Cristiano.
I am at the International Christian Film Festival with icons of the industry. And they're shaking their head no. Yes, you guys are. The Cristiano brothers, I don't care if you shake your head no, we all know that we stand on your shoulders, and that's the way we see it.
And just the way Rich was talking, I was like, wow, he sounds like a really faithful man. I think we should talk to him. And Bill's like, nah, he's busy. Like, he don't want to talk to us.
He was pretty much surrounded by people. And every filmmaker there that had like a project on deck, I think was going at him.
And I go, never mind. And Bill's like, no, just go. And I go, you think? He's like, just go wait. And I know we got dinner reservations with our whole crews down there, right? Like, so we were gonna go eat.
The people that would go up and talk to Rich would go right up on him, and like, it was like strangely close and invasive.
Yeah, then we told Rich about The Abiding Nail, gave him the movie, and he said, does this have a gospel message? And
I says, yes, yeah, it does. He says, I want to look at it. And he goes, do me a favor, don't sign anything until I have a chance to look at it. And I said, yeah, of course.
And give me a couple days. Well, then he watched it and called him the next day and said, yeah, we want it. I loved making The Abiding Nail, and I know there won't be another, so it was sad to see it end, but I'm so excited to see what God does with it, and I'm ready for our next journey.
You know, obviously, a Christian film is not supposed to take the place of the week in, week out sermon, you know, getting fed from the Word of God from your pastor, getting in Bible study, but we could still enjoy, and Christians can enjoy the arts. You know, in fact, you know, some of the best paintings are religious paintings. Some, I believe, if we made movies that really show that faith walk, those could and should be some of the best movies out there.
This medium is powerful and should be respected in that capacity, because really it can change the way people perceive themselves, and we can make these shifts. Positivity, altruism, purpose. by utilizing this medium in the right way. And I really think that's like what Bill discovered, going from zombie films to now faith-based films, because the message is what's important, and how we construct it and how we take it serious and respect it, it can change lives, man.
Most importantly, we're looking to bear fruit. We want people to know Jesus, and we want to help lead them to them. You know, we can't save them, but we certainly introduce them to the guy who can.
Yeah, I found out a couple of days, #1 in the faith category. I'm not surprised. I had, for 2 days, people had good taste.
For 2 days? Awesome. Awesome.
It's getting to that point where I'm starting to feel like I was a part of a real movie project.
Polka Pastures Poultry Palace. They're cheering because we were #1 on Amazon for 2 days. Our little faith-based film over here. Yeah, woo, yeah, it's so exciting. Sorry, like I feel exactly the way that rooster, it's a rooster, yeah, I feel that way that rooster feels.
Oh, is this how you want me? Is this how I'm supposed to be sitting? Is this good? Do I look good? Okay.
Jim Fogarty started poking me with a sharp stick saying, when are you gonna release, when's Wormwood's End coming out? When's it gonna happen? When are you gonna put it out? Well, why are you sitting on it? It's been 10 years, why?
Sorry, that was my stomach. Whoops.
Okay, this is my secret. This is the secret of my success. Bill would send me an email that was drab. It was just facts. It was just facts. That's it. These people, this time, this place. Just facts. And then I would fluff it up into a bunch of crap that people could read and feel good about themselves.
Here we go. Rowdy.
Woof. Woof, Toddy, you're just sweating. I could see you perspiring.
Are you okay? Okay.
There's someone to do my hair? Oh my gosh. We made it.
Here. Off in a huff.
And then play that right after Ross.
It's heavy.
Bye everyone. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.